Andrea Darlis in for Steve Cochran. Nick DiGilio is with me. And our good friend, Justin Kaufmann from Axios. Or as my mom says, Axios.
Axios. That's European.
She's like, I read Justin and Monica every day in Axios.
Tell your mother thank you.
You are the best. Everybody should start their day with the Axios newsletter. You and Monica and Carrie now.
Yep, Carrie Shepard.
Do a great job. First of all, tell everybody how they can get the Axios newsletter and their email.
Axios.com/Chicago will get you there. There's a lot of prompts. It's a free newsletter. It comes out pretty much every day now.
Yeah.
They're working us to the bone. I got to work on Saturdays and Sundays now, Nick. Which is not good. I know. How about that?
What?
But it's free. It's 900 words or less every day on the stories of Chicago. So it's a good compact way to learn more about your city.
It's a must read. You can get to the office or talk with your friends about everything that's happening in the city, the state, and you guys do a great job of covering. And you have a lot of fun with it too. You do some fun stuff.
Right. We'll cover City Hall. Like today, we're doing the weekend violence preparations for the city. And then, it ends with who won our grocery store Axios Chicago Readers Poll.
All right. Now, that's what I got to talk to you about. Because that's realistically,
that's what we want to talk about.
That's what everybody's talking about in Chicago. You came up with this great idea. I think you started it, right, Justin, with the Final Four. You'd kind of build it like that.
Yeah, it's just like taking tournaments and brackets, the deal. Mm-hmm. And then taking it to Chicago topics that we love, like the all-time stuff. So we've done best commercials. We've done best newscasters. And what you do is you pit 16 against each other and you whittle it down to the winner.
What were the 16 of the stores?
For the stores,
specifically
so it's
grocery,
all time. Grocery supermarkets all time. Tried to
yeah.
stay away from specialties because if you get into that, you get into the hundreds.
Yeah,
so we tried to be geographically representative. So
you had Happy Foods.
Yeah, Happy Foods
Edison?
is on there. You had Whole Foods, of course, Treasure Island, which is gone defunct. Dominic's,
Trader Joe's,
Aldi. A&P.
I remember the A&P.
The ones people got mad about. Pete's didn't make the top 16. High-Low didn't make the tops. Hillman's was one that was historic from the 50s and 60s, didn't make the top 16. So I don't say Sweet 16 because that's trademarked, but
right.
but you have to do
the air quotes when you say it.
Yeah. So what happened?
16.
I thought, and then you see them how you think they're going to play out. So you get the 1 and the 2 to play each other at the end.
But I like you give a little description of everything too.
You give a showdown, like what's Jewel versus Aldi. What's at stake? Jewel was actually a coffee. I didn't know this, but a coffee and tea company that started in 1899 in Chicago.
No kidding.
And it was off
Jewel tea company, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. And it was off the back of a wagon kind of thing, and it moved in, and it's obviously it's not local anymore. It used to be the jewel of Chicago, but it's not local. It's been through I don't know how many mergers. At this point, you might know, Nick.
I don't know. I worked there for 11 years.
Yeah.
I worked at Jewel on Southport.
Yeah,
the one across the street from the music box. Yeah.
Well,
it's rebuilt. When I worked there, it was the smallest Jewel in the city, and I'm not kidding. It was 12 aisles, and I was the dairy manager there. I don't know how the hell they put me in charge of anything.
They give you one corner for the dairy.
It's like
you're in charge of the milk and the cream.
Eggs.
Yeah, the dairy cart in the corner. Anyway, so Jewel. I thought it would be Jewel and Dominic's. because it was all time as well.
Because those were always the go-to grocers.
So that was my 1 and 2. And then when we got through it, the readers, and there were a couple thousand people that voted on it, but because we have a good 130,000 people that subscribe to the newsletter.
Yeah.
And the Mariano's beat Dominic's.
Really?
Which I was surprised by, but then people said when Mariano's first came out, before it was bought by Kroger, they loved it. Everybody loved it. Like it was a thing.
Yeah.
It was an independent store. It was like had the air of Dominic's, but it was new. It
had great produce.
It'd take on Whole Foods. Some say that it has gone downhill since it became like a national corporate kind of thing. But
there was the Dominic's that was right across from the GN parking lot on the corner there at Illinois.
Yeah.
That became a Mariano's, and now it's a
Whole Foods. Right.
So the final four was kind of, I don't know, it's kind of, I thought pedestrian in the way that it felt like it was just what the current stores were. It was Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, Mariano's, and Jewel. And so Jewel and Dominic's fought each other, or Jewel and Mariano's fought each other, and of course Jewel won.
Did Jewel win by a lot?
Jewel did win by a lot. As the number one seed, it was like the Yukon of supermarkets. It obliterated everything.
I joke, and I get made fun of a lot for this at home, but I always say that Jewel was one of the best. It was my first job. It was the best one I ever had. It paid back in the day, we get $4 an hour, and minimum wage was what, like $3 or $3.30 or whatever it was.
When I left Jewel, I was making $15.50 an hour.
Wow.
When I left.
See,
Jewel.
that's awesome.
And
but you
got
ago,
insurance.
too,
Yeah, it was
yes,
part-time.
insurance. You were in a
Anybody who was
union.
going to school, you were in a union. If you were going to school, it's the best part-time job. Well, I don't know. I can't
Best.
speak for it now. But in the 80s, in the early and mid 80s, it was the best part-time job.
It absolutely was.
It was amazing.
And they didn't put, I mean, they kind of taught you discipline too. Like I was chewing gum one time and got sent home. It's not like throw the gum
That's
away.
good. I learned lessons. You learn lessons.
16 years old, and she's like, go home.
Since you worked there,
What?
you must know this too. When you worked at,
I worked at Omni,
You worked
which
at
is
Omni.
the
My girlfriend-
dominant
my
version.
girlfriend worked at
We
Omni.
might
That's
have
right.
known each other, but yeah,
So-
at the picnics.
But the thing was, like, I go into Jewel now, and I see the way that these people are, like the employees, the way they're dressed. I'm like, man, I had to wear a tie.
Yes,
I had to wear.
I got written up. I got written up because the shirt wasn't clean enough.
We couldn't wear gym shoes.
Yeah, right.
You had to
apron,
wear
tie,
shoes.
the whole thing, cords. I couldn't wear gym shoes. These people are
Same
walking
thing.
around, I'm like, I walk in.
Oh, I
hey,
know.
when I worked here,
Right.
you little
Do you
bastard,
guys go back in, and again, I get made fun of for this too. Do you ever, when you go to the Jewel or the grocery store, the Jewels, do you tell the checker that used to work there?
Yeah. Well, I don't want to turn into my
I'm like,
dad.
I used to be in the food service industry too.
Yeah, my dad is a
30 years
talker.
ago.
He loves to try to connect. So he would be the one to do that. So when I do that, my wife sees me do that, and she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, so you work here too?
Yeah.
Oh, I used to work here too.
I do that
Oh, that's how you scan the tuna. What are you doing? Why are you talking like this?"
And there were produce codes like celery,
The worst under it is I will talk to the self checkout, just to the computer now.
You're doing
just
good,
like,
Justin.
You're doing great.
Yeah.
Beep, beep. Do you tell the other customers you have 16 items, you can't be in this line? I know because I used to work here.
Yeah, right. I talked to the robot.
When I worked there, it was before the UPC scan.
So
you had to
so
punch
if you
it
did
in.
price changes,
I remember.
If you did price changes, you would have to take every item off the shelf and scrape the tag off, and then
I was a cashier because when I went in for a box job in the back, and they were like
a stocker.
Yeah,
right?
a stocker, and they said that's $5 an hour or whatever, and they said, well, if you want 7, you can be a cashier, but you got to take a test. And I was like, I'll take the test.
Did
And
you
they're
take
like,
the test?
the test was like, there's 3 quarters and a dime. How much is this? And you're like, what are we doing here? So I passed it, and they gave me the job, but I was the only dude out of all of them
That really
at the
says
time.
something about how smart the box boys are.
I know, right?
Right.
Hey, we 5 cents.
So
What?
there was a lot of tension between the box guys
guys
and
in the back.
and the grocery
Right.
guys.
the
You know,
guys in the back.
So yeah, I had to deal with a lot of discrimination as the one
As
dude.
the one guy?
I
we had two
was,
guys.
I was a stock guy.
Yeah,
and
you wouldn't
so-
like me. We
didn't
wouldn't be
like
friends.
you. No,
I would have won you over, Nick.
Yeah.
You'd have been like, he's not so bad, even though he's got a frillier apron. He's not so bad.
Yeah.
He'll
He's a
chip
good
in.
guy. He knows the produce codes.
He knows how to stack the Snickers. He's
That's
good.
right.
He knows what's
That's
up.
right.
Hang out for a bit. We're with Justin Kaufmann, Nick DiGilio, more hijinks and merriment after a Steve Cochran Show. Andrea Darlis in for Steve. Nick DiGilio's here. Justin Kaufmann from Axios. Lagunitas is closing.
Yeah, how about that?
big
Lagunitas
story.
craft beer, one of the biggest craft brewers in the country, moved here in 2014. So they moved here. They're in California, in the Russian River Valley.
Yeah.
Petaluma, I think is the name of the town. But they're playing off that river. And I remember when I was on the radio at a different station, I interviewed the guy who ran Lagunitas, and he talked about they're going to run out of water over there. And so they needed more water. So they came to Chicago, not to just to expand their business, but to draw from Lake Michigan, like most of the craft brewers here do.
Right.
So that was a big place. So they had a warehouse in Douglas Park, which is kind of by the Cinespace over like 18th and over Ogden area.
Yeah, like
and
west,
yeah,
west side,
right
west
by
loop.
Douglas Park.
Yeah.
And they had a tap room there that was actually really great. It was a very funky kind of Willy Wonka vibe there. And a decade later, they are leaving Chicago, and they closed up their tap room permanently now. They're out. They left.
That's a bummer.
The
That's a
chairs are
bummer.
gone.
That's a big loss.
Yeah, and they're back. They're going back to California. The Chicago experiment failed. Now, you could look at that and say, well, that's they didn't get roots here, but they did, because every bar, restaurant you're in, there's
Absolutely.
Lagunitas everywhere,
Yes.
and that
Yes.
has a lot to do with their move. It also, they in 2017 were bought by Heineken. So their direction of that craft brewery moved in a different way. Like they used to be an independent. They were trying to do their thing. Heineken came in like everybody did with the craft brewery. Goose Island got sold to Budweiser.
Sure.
And that changed the direction, it changed their leadership. And so that you could see why I could understand 7 years after that, why Heineken thinks they don't need to be in Chicago anymore. And I'm not sure what they had anything to do with the corporate, decisions.
That's all right. I mean, it is
Right.
a loss, but you know what? I think Chicago has become more of the craft brew capital as opposed to like the Oregons or the West Coast, whatnot.
Absolutely.
Like Malt Row. I mean, we have at South Loop. We have
a
so
lot
many
of it is
great breweries now.
because Chicago, because of the district, like everything in industry, and you think about business, Chicago is strategically centered in the middle of the country. So Lagunitas wants to get to the Midwest, wants to get to the East Coast. It's a lot easier than being in the Russian River Valley to get to New York if you're in Chicago. So I understand why they're going to keep their warehouse here. So my guess is they'll try to keep their distribution intact. Craft beer is going through a struggle right now. The last 2 years is the first time in its history, or since they've been ranking craft brewery, that there has been a decline in revenue, decline in production. And I think that has a lot to do with the competition. Obviously, it used to be that you could find only one or two products. Now you can find 100, 200. It might have to do with inflation and the rising price of beer. If you go into a corner store to buy a 6-pack of craft brew, you're talking $13, $14.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so that's become difficult. And we saw the big story yesterday that marijuana use, legal marijuana use, is outpacing on a daily basis alcohol. Now, alcohol still overall is if you talk about
that'll always be the king.
It'll always be the king.
Yeah,
but that probably also plays a role, especially when you can now consume marijuana in drink form and other ways. So those are eating into the craft beer market as well. So right now, not a great look for the craft beer industry or time. But, again, beer overall is still king and, leads. So it might be an ebb and flow. But we have to look. It's been 2 years straight now that they've had 2022 and 2023 have been down years for craft beer.
Boy, that's interesting. We'll see what happens.
There's a lot out there, though. I mean, that's the thing. There's a ton.
There is. Yeah, and we still have great breweries
Do you
here.
consider Lagunitas a Chicago beer?
I did.
Kinda.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, it was so it was so popular here.
Because of the roots.
It does show up like in the top 50 in the country, Lagunitas, but who else is in there? It's Revolution, which is a big Chicago company.
Yeah.
Half Acre is a big Chicago company.
Yeah.
A few others that are competing at that level are big independent craft
and
brewers.
some of the newer ones, Forbidden Root, I think those will start, rising in the ranks too now.
I got one
the more
blocks away
people-
from where I live on Irving, Erie.
Yeah, Erie, yeah.
Yeah, that's like right up. That's
another
like
one.
blocks away
Yeah,
from where I
We're
live.
gonna have that
exactly.
market.
Chicago continues to have a lot of success in that market, but again, they got to watch to see how the industry overall is performing.
For the last few minutes here, I love, we're talking with Justin Kaufmann from Axios. I love how you and Monica and Carrie how you do the brackets, but I love now how you do the quizzes.
Yeah, it's called the Kaufmann quiz.
The Kaufmann
Nick,
quiz.
I wanted to brand it so people don't get
quiz.
Why don't we do
alliteration
a,
works.
Why
sort
don't
of.
we do a little quiz?
All right. So last week, I do this every Sunday. Do 10 questions about Chicago. It's on a theme.
All right.
It's part of the Sunday newsletter. We do the Axios Sunday. It's more like CBS Sunday Morning than the stuff we do Monday through Friday.
Gotcha.
So I do a quiz, and if you get a 10 out of 10, you screenshot it, send it to me. I'll give you a shout out. And sometimes there's prizes, sometimes there's not. Mostly it's laziness on my part. Getting the prizes together.
You're lazy?
No.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. So
Putting all
last
these
week,
quizzes
I'm going to read a
together.
couple of these for you
All right,
guys
good.
and see.
I love
Because I know,
these.
Andrea, you know these.
And poor Justin, I'll take the quizzes. The
Yeah,
radio quiz.
nails it.
I can't. Well, I mean, I
Yeah,
have a
but you're
little
getting
bit
10
of
out of
inside
10s in
info.
all these.
No, I'm not going to do well.
You're going to do great. This one
You're
was
gonna do
last week.
fine, yeah.
So the one coming up on Sunday will be about Summertime Shy. Memorial Day is the
Did
unofficial.
you write that already?
It's already written. I'm not going to give you any of those. I give you a hint. Just read it on Sunday because
Okay,
it's ready
all
to
right,
go. But
all
here's
right.
last
It's fun.
week's.
They're fun.
This was when MSI made the change and they're going to call it the Griffin. So this is about nicknames and name changes.
Okay.
So this is the quiz for nicknames. Yeah. All right, for you guys. These are simple questions.
Okay.
It's been renamed 875 North Michigan. What was it called before?
Oh,
Water
you
Tower
know this.
place.
No. You're wrong. You're already out. You're already
Hancock.
out. That was quick.
Eight.
Hancock.
There it
We
is.
got
Yeah,
it.
there
Here
you
we
go. Nice job, Nick.
All right, let's
Oh,
keep
yeah,
going.
right.
So-
Because it's right across the street from Water
Yeah.
Tower Place. Okay.
all right. What do we call the yellow line on the CTA?
Oh,
Skokie Swift.
The
Yeah.
Skokie
Yes,
Swift. That is
very
right.
good.
Okay, we're moving. What do old timers call UIC? Now, this is a multiple choice if you don't know it.
Circle
University-
Campus.
Circle Campus. We got a
Circle.
winner here. All right.
My dad, up until he passed away, still called it
The
Circle because
yeah,
he took
right.
some classes
Young
there.
people,
Yeah.
that's not a thing people remember at all. That
No.
that hung people up
Circle.
last week.
And originally, wasn't it Navy Pier?
It was Navy Pier,
Originally?
yeah. They've been at a couple different places, but you're right. Navy Pier. My dad went to UIC at Navy Pier.
Navy
That's
Pier,
right.
yeah.
What do most Chicagoans call Soldier Field?
Soldiers.
Soldiers Field.
Soldiers. Nick gets it. That was a tough one too. A lot of people went with. I put the circle. I put the cereal bowl. Someone got
Right.
bowl, and they're like,
The bowl.
we don't
blank
call it
bowl.
soda. We call it
Pop.
Pop.
All right, that's an easy one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We're 5 out of 5 here. This downtown playhouse is technically called the CIBC Theater, but we call it, and I'll give you multiple choice on this one,
Oh, you know this.
the Round Theater, Oriental Theater, Ruth Page, or the Schubert.
The Schubert.
The Schubert is correct.
Schubert, yeah.
Good
My
job.
mom used to work at Inland Steel next door.
Right next door.
Dearborn
so funny, so
Monroe.
did my grandpa. We should talk about that.
No
Yeah, it's right there.
kidding.
We don't say it's right across from. We say
Kitty
adjacent
corner?
to it. Now,
Kitty
this was a controversial one.
This is a
Caddy
good
or
one.
I
kitty?
messed it up. I
Caddy
messed
or
this one
kitty?
up. Right. I had kitty corner on there. The answer is over by there.
Over by there.
But I should have. But as pointed out, it was a mistake on my part. That's for far away.
Yeah, that's far away.
Right. When I made it when I said it right across, I should have said it's. We don't say. Do you know where it's at? It should be over by there. I made the mistake of saying right across from because that got everybody confused because
For me, I
kitty
would
corner.
say-
Kitty corner.
Yeah, right. That's
But
what
it's
everybody
also,
did.
If some people say caddy corner.
Right. Most people got that one wrong.
Yeah.
They protested. I went to the tribunal, and the tribunal said that
Over by there?
I'll allow it. You're all right.
All right,
you
good.
win. You all win.
All right, that's
How
a
far
freebie.
how far is anything within the city of
20
Chicago?
minutes, 20
15,
minutes.
20 minutes.
15,
Right.
20 minutes. Okay, it's now called Allstate Arena. What was it called before?
Rosemont Horizon.
You guys are so old.
I was just there for Heart last week.
Oh, I was too.
Yeah.
All right, you just gave away your age, but that's
Yeah.
great. That's great. That's good. What was the name of the mascot? This is the toughest one. What was the name of the mascot the people of Chicago created in jest for the 2016 Olympic bid? I'll give you this.
Remember this? We lost
Eagle
the bid, by
Man,
the way.
Sears Tower Man, Chalky, or DeBeef?
Chalky.
Chalky is
Yeah.
correct.
Chalky, and I
Nice.
only got that by process of elimination.
That was because Chicago's murder rate was out of control, and they
Yeah.
made the
Right.
T-shirts and everything to say, "Why are we doing anything about the Olympics when we should be dealing with violence?"
Yeah.
So they went to a much
Chalky.
safer place, Rio de Janeiro.
Exactly.
That's right. All right.
Exactly.
The last one. What did the late Cook County Commissioner Bill Beavers nickname himself? A, the worm.
Oh, you don't even need to give the answers.
B,
We all know.
We all know it, Mr. Big Stuff. 3, the hog with the big nuts. Or D, King Clout. Can you say that on LS? I don't know if you can. I didn't say it. Bill Beavers said it.
Number 3.
Number 3, that's right. You guys got a 10 out of 10. Ding, 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 ding. Good job.
Justin, you are the best. Check out the Axios newsletter for all things to do this Memorial Day weekend, and come back. You're the best.
I love it.
We
Thanks
love
for
you.
having me, guys.
Justin Cochran's the best.